JAMA. We are exploring the 8th verse of Bhaja Govindam. Om Sehna Vavatu Sehna Bhanaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bhaj Govindam, the beautiful lyrical composition of the great sage Adi Shankaracharya, is an incredible tool for seekers of the ultimate truth because each verse is filled with question marks that hit us at the deepest soul level. It awakens that part of our mind known as buddhi or satabuddhi, which is filled with light, and usually it is asleep in everyday life. It awakens that questioning inquiry part of us, which really can ask deep questions. It challenges the paradigms in our day-to-day samsara that we take so for granted. It rattles our comfort zones. And once it has shaken and shook everything that we took for granted, it takes away those fragile crutches in samsara that we hold on to. It then bestows us knowledge or the light as to how to move on a deep, reverence, devotional, meditative, and ultimately yogic path. We're now on the 8th verse. Over the past 7 verses, we have had a deeply satisfying journey. And now we look at the 8th verse. Ka te kanta kasate putraha samsaro yama tiva vichitraha kasya tvam kaha kuta ayata tattvam chintaya tadiha bhrata. Who is your wife? Who is your son? Strange is this samsara, this world. Of whom are you? From where have you come? O brother, ponder upon these truths. Brahataha means brother. So earlier, while Shankaracharya had exclaimed, "O Muda, O delusional one," now with growing compassion, Shankaracharya says, Bhrata. Who is your wife? Te kanta ka, kanta. And here, wife, yes, because he was talking to a person in ancient India, a male priest. However, from a more universal perspective, we can simply look at this as challenging our partner, the person we ascribe a lot of our dreams, security, and ambitions to, be they of any gender. Ka te putraha, who is your son or daughter or child of any gender. But our child is usually, if we have a child, we are very, very close to them. Or our pets, or our nieces and nephews. We're so close to this generation. We depend on them. Ayam samsara ativa vichitra. This samsara is very strange. And you should think, what is your relationship with this samsara? Who are you? Kasya tvam? Who do you belong to? Did you originally belong to this samsara, or are you visiting? What does it feel like to you? Where did you come from? Kuta ayata. So the relationships that we most take for granted of our life partner or partner or our children, were they always there? Or did they join you up at some point in samsara? Perhaps then these are samsaric relationships. And then goes on to, so first goes on to say, who is your partner? Who's your child? Like, where did you come across them? You were sojourning across the universe and then you meet up. And then kasyatvam. Who do you belong to then? Who are you? If you are not theirs, yes, you are there in a samsaric transactional way, but if you are not theirs, then whose are you? And where did you come from? Such a resounding question marks. Tattvam iha chintaya. Therefore, you should think again and again. Who are these relationships with so many labels that are circulating around me? Ayam sansaraha ativa vichitra. Vichitra means strange. And then concludes with this, indeed, this samsara is very strange. So we will understand what is samsara and why is it strange. And why are these relatives that we have around us that build our canopy of existence may not be the final relationships. These are not only temporary in a given lifetime, but that probably these are hiding you from your ultimate relationships. These are preventing you from seeking your ultimate relationships. To start looking at the word samsara, samsara comes from that which is going round and round. And it refers to the circuitous existence of the daily mundane life, the course of existence that we have. And it also, so that's one thing, you get up, you brush your teeth, you eat your food, you feel hungry again, you take your lunch, you do a little work, then you feel tired, then you eat dinner, then you sleep for 8, 9 hours, then you wake up again, then you chase a few things, then you get tired, then you sleep again. So it's just going on and on and on and on. And so that is the kind of a circle that we are trapped in. And then there is another circle, a greater circle, which is the circle of transmigration or reincarnation, that the soul is passing from one body into another body. So it's a very core concept of the Vedic, Hindu, Buddhist, Jaina teachings coming out of India. And there is some mention that these were also present in the ancient Greek teachings. But definitely there seems to be some continuity. Death is occurring, birth is happening, and there is now enough evidence to show that we return again and again. So this is known as the wheel of samsara or samsara kala chakraha or samsara chakra. Chakra means wheel of endless cycles of birth, death, and then rebirth. And through this cycle, the same things happen. 6 changes occur. Birth, jayate, existence, asti, growth, vardate, transformation, viprinamate, decay, apakshiyate, and death, vinashati. And then again, birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, death. Birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, death. Birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, death. Even a tiny tadpole goes through birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, and death. And so does the mighty human. Birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, death. So this happens, and the eternal soul, the Atma, simply attaches to another conglomeration of matter called the body. And again, birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, death. Why? Because the soul has not realized its eternal essence, not realized its true family. And so it is wandering about. We are wandering about in this vast samsara, made up not just of one earth, but billions of planets and multiple parallel galaxies, the known and the unknown. We are wondering about it, simply going through these same old changes. And each stage brings its own suffering, and we are walking towards a painful death. There is a painful birth, there is a painful existence in between, and there is a painful death, and all changes to the body are painful also. So there is an inevitable suffering that is attached to samsara. Nothing is pain-free. Nothing comes without a label. Without a label with this amount of suffering comes to you. There is nothing. And that is why samsara has been compared to a well where we are stuck in the darkness there. So kupam means well, so it is known as samsara kupam. We're stuck in the well. We can't seem to come out. If we try to climb out of it, we fall down again and then. Samsara is also compared to a turbulent sea with I don't know what it's called in English, but whirlpools, because with whirlpools that pull you in, the harder you try to get out of it, you get pulled in. Even if you slash your wrist and try to leave, you come right back, matching those disastrous thoughts in the last moment to have another disastrous life. So this is samsara is also known as bhavasagara, or the tumultuous, treacherous sea. And of course, samsara is known as samsara chakra, the samsara wheel. In fact, entire traditions of spiritual wisdom have been built around getting out of samsara. So Buddhism is first and foremost a response to getting out of samsara. The the Hindu tradition, every second verse is about liberation from the samsara. The Sikh and Jaina tradition are also looking at this. So the entire response to this crucial seeing, when you step back from your human roles and from Dana Ishna acquisitions, from greed, from lust, and then from sentimentalism of grabbing onto your relatives. And if you just step back, you're like, whoa, where am I? And there feels like a sense of deja vu. And if I can motivate myself, but deep down, I feel a bit trapped. Even the positive thinking is like a band-aid towards something that's existentially not okay. And the reason we are not existentially not okay is because we've done this. We've been here. We've played those roles. And the reason, unless we really desensitize ourselves and become sick, most of us feel the pain of the others too. If you see a hungry dog on the road, if you see photos of some starving children in some part of the world, we feel it. The reason we feel it is because we've been those people. We've been that hungry dog and we've been that hungry child. So And what do? All we do is compulsorily have to go through birth, existence, growth, transformation, decay, and death. And we cannot stop any of these changes. So this is samsara. Huh? And samsara is rather strange. Why is it strange? Because none of the relationships last forever. So I will point to some other verses from another hymn. Mata nasti, pita nasti, nasti bandhu, mahodara, artham nasti, graham nati, tasma jagrata jagrata. We are being asked to awaken. Jagrata means to awaken. That in a real sense, there is no mother, no father. A lot of us have mothers and fathers, but they don't last. And we have mothers and fathers and they disappoint us. Or we have mothers and fathers and they are positively malevolent towards us. We have no real relationships. They are not real siblings. Many times a sibling stab us on the back. Many times they were present, but they are dead. Many times they are there, but they are not there. They are far away. So who is there for you? And as for money, it also constantly goes and comes and goes and comes. And the house, if I go back in my mind, often in my dreams, I'm back in India, but where is that house? That house is not there. And there have been other houses that we have lived in that we got used to and thinking, oh, this feels really steady. But is it? Is any dwelling steady? Janma dukkha, jara dukkha, jaya dukkha, puna puna, samsara sagaram dukkham tasmat jagrata jagrata. Birth is full of pain. Dukkha. Dukkha means pain, suffering. Birth is full of pain. Old age is full of pain. And the partner, the spouse, the lover is again and again the source of pain. We all have to agree to that. That we are giving each other suffering in relationships. This ocean of samsara, samsara sagara, sagar means ocean. So in this verse, this ocean of samsara is full of pain, full of emotional suffering. Hence, let's wake up, jagrata, jagrata. Kamascha, krodascha, lobhascha, dehe tishtanti taskara. Jnana-ratna-paharaya tasmat jagrata jagrata. And what happens in this samsara? No matter how much we try to hold on to the knowledge that our teacher gave us, or a book gave us, or we got an insight from within, what happens? Kamaha, desires, non-stop desires, krodha, anger, lobha, greed. These three thieves who dwell within our body, they steal the jewel called jnana or knowledge, and we are reduced back to being grabbing, grasping, mundane creatures no better than anyone else. So it's not like our mind is working for us. It is the home of these thieves, the vasanas, the desires, the anger when those desires are frustration or resentment when those desires are not fulfilled, and the non-stop greed for more, for more, for more. And these three things are constant whirling around us and robbing from us our any sense of peace and enoughness that we may cultivate through attending satsangs or reading books, etc. We are under attack, we're under siege within this samsara. Sampadaha swapna sankasha yauvanam kusumopamam vidyutchanchalamayusham tasmat jagrata jagrata. All possessions, everything that we see around us are like the possessions and things we see in a dream. The possessions in the dream last for a few hours, and these may last for a decade or so, or a few decades, but they all disappear. Youthfulness withers away like flowers at the sight of a scorching sun. full blossomed flower, but when the sun is scorching heat, they just wither away. In the same way, our life passes away like a lightning in samsara. Therefore, be alert. Kshanam vittam, kshanam chittam, kshanam jivitamavayo. Yes, yamasya karuna nasti tasmat jagrita jagrita. Wealth, memories, and life. These are all momentary. These are all transient. The Lord of Death, or the deity of death, the Yama, which is Ishvara, does not show any mercy. And that moment comes and it's over, only to start again. Therefore, be awake. So, this is the reality in samsara. So, this samsara, where we are saying, oh, this is my relative, this is that person, this is this person, we are holding on to them. But the reality is that all of this is so momentary, so changeable. That it is indeed vichitraha, strange. It seems like we have come into a carnival, we've met some people and we're holding on to them and we're saying, these people are mine and those people are not mine. And we're hoping that they stay, but in the carnival, as we keep moving through it, one by one, these people are also either deceiving us or dying on us or disappearing on us. And gradually, we're just alone until even this body goes. And the memories of this body go. And then we start again. So it's like a honey trap. And we're stuck here. So this is a very profound verse. So let us look at samsara some more. There is something interesting about samsara is that our mind it's not just a thing outside. Yes, it is a setup that's beyond us, but at the same time, the amount of suffering that we undergo in samsara is dependent, it's a function of our mind. If our mind has this knowledge and our expectations are a bit low from samsara, and so we're not surprised and shocked when relationships sour or end and the world is fragmented, when we're not surprised, when we're not excessively attached, so it's painful to let go, and nor are we excessively averse. So when things come our way that we don't like, we don't discombobulate in irritation, then we will not suffer that much. There is a difference between reacting and acting in samsara versus stepping back from that entirely human experience to having a more of a spiritual experience. There is a little gap there between simply participating in samsara with your eyes closed, like your spiritual eyes closed, and feeling the slings and arrows of samsara and still clutching on to ephemeral situations, or stepping back and saying, yeah, it's happening again. It's happening again. So there's a difference. And that is why in the Amrita Bandhu Upanishad, it is said, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho, means the mind is itself the cause of bondage in samsara or freedom from samsara. In a moment-to-moment experience, we are either in bondage, and bondage means now we are in bondage to suffer because our mind is busy lining up the ducks in a certain order, controlling things and wanting things to go your way, and wanting your child and wanting your lover or wanting your partner or to line up in a certain way for you. And if they don't, if in samsara they are absent or they are not attentive, then our whole life is spent in lamenting and suffering. That's why there is another teacher called Vidyaranya, and he has said very clearly that this samsara is very real, very spooky, very treacherous for the people who believe it to be so real. Just like when you narrate a story to a child, a ghost story or something, this happens and they believe it with big eyes. That's how we all are. We are very so naive and we take everything literally. And we believe in these human narratives of love and this and that and soulmate and somebody will complete you and a knight in shining armor and your children will take care of your old age and this will happen and that will happen. But the reality is, you don't know. Samsara is very vichitra, very strange. And but those who have sadbuddhi, those who have their buddhi, their thinking faculty filled with sat, with the light of knowledge, for them, they do not believe it, that they do not, they feel like, yes, we are in some strange terrain where what pretends to be pleasure is going to lead us to pain, and what may be painful now may lead us to some moments of relief. So to understand the samsara, it's like a movie playing. You have to go behind the screen, or you have to wake up in the movie hall and say, this is a movie. This is how it is. So Shankaracharya, in his seminal text, Vivek Chudamani describes samsara thus: Sushupti kale manase praline naivasti kinchit sakala prasiddhe ato manaha kalpite vapumsaha samsara etasya navastutosti. It says, let us even look at the real nature of the mind. Okay? When there are three stages of sleep, there is the waking state, not awake, but waking state, where we are all meeting. Then there is the dream state, in which we don't meet like this. We have some virtual experiences and we may meet each other, but we may not. And then there is a third stage called dreamless sleep. It happens for a few minutes, but there is, at that time, not only are the senses asleep, so they cannot check in into the waking world, but the mind also falls asleep for a few minutes. At last, that darned mind falls asleep. And just for those few minutes, there is not even the dream worlds. At that time, there is only that darned mind is asleep, so there is only the self. That's it. And it's just few moments of very deep sleep. If we get that, we feel so good. We wake up actually happy. And we say, I don't know. I didn't even get any dream. I'm just feeling so good. Why? Because you were near yourself, your soul, and there was no mind in between. So Vivek Chudamani is saying in the verse that I chanted that in dreamless sleep, when the mind is reduced to its causal, like its original state, where is it? It's docked in the soul, in the spirit. There exists nothing, no samsara, neither waking samsara nor virtual dream samsaras, because we suffer in both dream and in the waking dream. So it is evident from that universal experience that samsara, this waking samsara, is simply a creation of the mind. Just like it creates a samsara in the dream state, it creates a samsara in the waking state. The samsara in the dreaming state has time and space fluid, And the samsara in the waking state has fixed time and space. You wake up to a sequential calendar. You wake up to a certain time of the day. But nevertheless, it changes. It is a dream. The dream samsara changes quickly, and the landscape of the waking samsara changes insidiously, slowly. But everything changes. Even if you look at the landscape of planet Earth over millions of years, it has completely changed from a planet of inferno of fire to a planet of ice to a planet of greenery, and now it's becoming hot again. So everything is changing. So this is what we are being asked to look at this samsara. It is not that stable place that kings are trying to conquer and politicians are trying to change and win. All those are good motives. But the true seekers are trying to see through samsara. Further, in another text which I plan to take up in the near future, which is a primer of non-dual teachings known as Atma Bodha by Shankaracharya, um, Shankaracharya says in verse 16, Samsara swapna tulyo hi ragadveshadi sankulaha swakale satyavat bhati prabodhe satya sat bhavet. What is he saying? That this samsara is full of attachments, raga. Raga is known as attachment, and aversions known as dvesha. This is a key Sanskrit words. If you plan to keep studying with me, you should know these words, raga, dvesha. And that is how our mind operates. When it is leaning towards something, I want this should be in my life, I should be closer to it. This raga, and oh, I don't want this. Why has this shown up in my life? I do not like it. This is known as dvesha, like and dislike. But raga dvesha is important. So in the world, the mind experiences likes and dislikes, attraction and aversion, raga and dvesha. And when we experience incredible likes and dislikes, too many opinions about what we want and what we don't want, we can't simply be with what is showing up, then the mind is very active. And at that time, it starts spinning this samsara. I'll go here, I'll chase that, I'll follow this, I'll accommodate this, I'll sacrifice, overly active. And this samsara is born from that kind of a suffering mind. And it stays for as long as this dream-like existence of, I'll have this, I don't want this, all this continues. But it becomes unreal when one wakes up, not just physically, but one wakes up from true wisdom. When wisdom dawns, when one wisdom dawns, one realizes then one need not have so many opinions, so many likes and dislikes. One can simply calm down and see what is the natural order of things. For me, the natural order is to teach this knowledge. The natural order is not anything else. And whatever else I try, it leads to samsara fabrication. But this is the most natural. So it's an example of how the mind creates moment to moment this suffering. So our mind is in cahoots with the setup, which is strange. And then we can ask, why is Ishvara creating a strange setup? That is again the mind insisting that the setup not be strange. Whereas when we bring in scientific curiosity into samsara, we say, wait, this is how it is. Because you are visiting. And if you're visiting, you are visited a very strange setup where your friend might be leading you down the slippery slide, and your enemy may be showing you the work you have to do. So everything is not what it looks. And this is samsara. And further, when these desires are building up in us, when these desires are there, we're not peaceful. When we wake up, we're not peaceful with just simply the sunshine, the air, the normal, ordinary desires, which are biological desires, like I'll go and drink a glass of water. No, it must be a certain kind of water from a certain waterfall and in a certain brand and a certain cooler and a certain kind of ice cube, then we have a problem. So then samsara becomes even more filled with raga dvesha. Yatra yatra bhave trishna samsara vidhi tatra ve. So yatra yatra, as and as these desires spout within us, then and there the samsara becomes more and more intense within us. And that is why, while the entire Western civilization, and specifically right now, Western spirituality is really, really focused on abetting our desires. Desire what you want, ask what you want. The, the only time I would like to talk about asking what you want is humbly in front of Goddess Lakshmi, where she's asking us to look at the dharmic content of our desire. And and while we are also understanding that she dwells within us, and that dhana or wealth is not just cash or property or cars, but it's also inner enoughness and peace and contentment. Another name for Lakshmi is contentment. In that scenario, we talk about desires carefully. But otherwise, as a Vedic teacher and as a Vedic practitioner, one has to be careful to the quality of desires one is holding because they quickly rob us of our peace of mind. So it is to the degree of desires that we have, unfulfilled desires, and these desires give birth to more unfulfilled desires. Desire fulfillment never leads to fulfillment because desire fulfillment is a prelude to the birth of millions of more desire. Oh, now that I got this, I want this. Now that I have this, I want that. So vasana eva samsara. So vasana or trishna and samsara, they are one. And unless we see through them and renounce them, we are caught up in the samsaric moon. And it is in this samsara that we develop so many desires around our romantic partner, life partner, how we want them to be, what they should be like, how they should fulfill us. And we just get caught up in that. And if they are absent, then why are they absent? We feel so broken or separate if they are not there due to any reason. And we do not realize that there are many things that flow together, some things are alone. This is the natural state, and there is beauty in it, and perhaps there is a purpose in it, and perhaps there is a hidden strength in it, but our mind is so full of raga dvesha and so befuddled with not enoughness and searches and wanderings around the planet in seeking into fulfillment that we lose our way and we lose our peace and we are filled with suffering. So then what happens? Then our senses, which have been compared to horses in the Katha Upanishad, they're just wandering around. The intellect has been compared to the charioteer. They and the soul is sitting on a chariot called the body. So the soul is the actual passenger, and it is sitting on a chariot called the body. But where will the body go? The body will go where the horses will go. Yes, there is a charioteer which should ideally, the intellect, the buddhi, which should give it direction. Go on the path of Shreyas, Sattva, purity, and not on the path of prayas. However, the reins with which it's guiding those senses is called the mind. So, mind is the problem. If the mind is understanding the will of the soul and the intellect, it will tell the senses to go where they should go. But otherwise, not. Even to show up to a satsang, whether live or on YouTube, the soul has to want it. The charioteer has to tell the mind that we're not doing anything else. We are waking up early to show up for the satsang when it's happening. Because when I'm teaching it live, I'm teaching it early in the morning, Pacific time, California. And for many of you, it's early morning. So the intellect has to tell the mind, and the mind has to act. But the mind is distractible and it could be filled of, I don't want to, likes and dislikes. I don't want to wake up early. Or I want to do something else right now. The mind is distractible. Or I rather need to read the newspaper right now. Or the news on my phone right now. So likes and dislikes. And so the senses are not commanded. So the senses get up and they were about to go to the screen with which you get the satsang, but it goes somewhere else. And the fingers don't stop and they may browse and be co-listening or reading something else. So the whole system is misaligned. The soul may want it. The soul's karma might be that this knowledge is now ready for you, but the wild horse-like senses are wandering here and there, unreined in by a samsaric mind. And the samsaric mind convinces the intellect that it's doing the right thing. And so who suffers? Who falls into the well of the samsara? The soul. The soul, despite being one with the great supreme self, is still lost in samsara. And this is where the soul, despite being Atma, needs liberation because it has become imprisoned in samsara by its own non-functioning intellect, by its own likes and dislike filled mind, and its own senses that do not stop grazing in the world. For the true seeker, the intellect, which is the charioteer, the reins, which is the mind, the chariot, which is the body, the senses, which is the horses, they all have to submit and integrate in the direction of self-realization, in the direction of self-integration. This is how one can potentially move forward. Otherwise, even the spiritual journey is temporary. It is transient. It is not completely, it doesn't deliver. And this is why samsara is a bondage. And look at the irony that we hold on to a couple of ephemeral bodies that are also going through birth and transformation and decay and death. And we say, this is mine and that is not mine. And we spend all our time holding on to them and developing permutation combinations for our relationships when the ultimate relationship to Govinda, to that all-pervading intelligence to which we can connect with and calm the samsara, we neglect that. And that is why Shankaracharya said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Govindam, Bhaja Mudmate. Calm down all this doing and planning and moping and suffering. Some of it is under your control. The setup is not under your control, but the response is under your control. And try and calm down your likes and dislikes. And that is why in in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 2, Krishna says to Arjuna, and through speaking to Arjuna, speaks to all of us, and teaches us the essence of, in this case, it's karma yoga, where we act, but we don't act for our likes and dislikes. We really act from a sense of a higher duty, where duty liberates you from samsara, where duty liberates you from samsara and the mind's cahoots, and you are duty bound to the greater Ishvara, the greater intelligence. For example, if I'm teaching here to you week after week for for my liking and to avoid my disliking, then after a while, this will become a source of suffering for me. But the reason my some of my students who know me for many years say, "Oh, Shunyaji, you're steady in this path of teaching." And the reason is, this is not between me and my mind. This is between me and my duty, that I have been given these tools and I'm an instrument, and so I shall perform this duty to Ishvara. ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम्. And so Krishna reassures us, Krishna here represents an ultimate intelligence, that those who dedicate their actions to me, as in to the higher power, and they see this highest truth of Ishvara as their goal, they meditate upon this as self within them, then, O Partha, Partha is another name for Arjuna, I swiftly deliver these seekers from the ocean of birth and death, from the ocean of samsara, because their consciousness, their Atmic consciousness, is united with the universal consciousness. So they are, so the trick to not being caught in samsara is to live in it, to participate in it, to fulfill your duty, to help where you can, but know that your allegiance is to the setup beyond. That is the nutshell here. If your allegiance is to a person older to you, younger to you, equal to you, then you will stay there. And that is why even the Guru-Shishya relationship, which is the most extolled and most beautiful relationship in the Vedic tradition, the only relationship that we like, that relationship should not be to the Guru's body, to the Guru's family, to the Guru's personality, but to the knowledge that the Guru brings forth. And so we say, this kind of knowledge that cuts my ropes that have been tying me for endless lifetimes to samsara, this knowledge that liberates me, that is the precursor to my liberation, this knowledge can only come from a higher setup, from the decision of a higher setup to no longer bog me down in samsara, but to release me, to bring me up and then to release me. And that I learn to release me. No, I get to not participate in the same way. Hence, we give the Guru an esteemed status. Today, and this happened until 300 years ago, maybe. Today, the Guru has become a personality cult. Today, we hear about, sexual abuse by the Guru or financial abuse by the Guru or other kinds of, boundary breaking things. We're not, I'm not talking about Guru as a title that can be grabbed on. I'm talking about the concept of Guru in the Vedic tradition and why it is so reverent to us, and why it's reverent to me. Because I had the good fortune of being with a guru who took no advantage. A guru only gives. What can we give to a guru? What can we give them who has given us the ultimate knowledge? What? Okay, it was traditional that the guru lives in a body, eats food, so we can take some food, we can take some comfort. Minimal. So, from that perspective, we look at what are the aids, guru, shastra, this kind of knowledge, tradition or parampara that keeps this knowledge pure. It must have been a parampara, a tradition that keeps the knowledge emittance from my being pure. Otherwise, I too have equal propensity to samsara, like all of us. But it is a training. It is a um, generation after generation commitment to keep this channel of knowledge clear and pure, so that those weary samsari beings can finally reflect upon the essence, as Shankaracharya is saying in the verse 8, Tattvam iha chintaya. This is the words from the verse 8 of Bhaja Govindam. Now think, now reflect on that truth. And who is the Guru? The Guru is the bearer of that truth. And what is the parampara? It is the container of that truth. And what is the Shastra? It is the source of that truth. And who is the Shishya, the Sadasya? They are the receivers of that truth, the next generation of truth bearers. Truth bearers, not celebrity bearers, not fame bearers, truth bearers. And that is why this verse is saying this samsara is vichitra, strange. It is asking you to question your most core relationships, not to throw them or discard them or be indifferent to them or cold to them, but to just take a step back from all that bonding and that attachment that's breeding suffering. And to even accept who has shown up in your life, good, bad, ugly, lovely, to say, okay, there's samsara set up. And I don't have to be reacting so much, pushing, pulling. No need to. So the real nature of things is hidden under the superimposed nature of samsara, which it is a strange setup, but it gets activated by our desiring mind, which falls into the pool of raga dvesha. That is why the kind of vichara means thought, we are being asked to do is called viveka. Viveka means discerning. Who am I? Ko hum. Who am I? So I've been not just teaching this Bhaj Govindam. In my different classes, I teach Bhakti Yoga, I teach other things to you. And if you've been catching them, then we did discuss even, is the world created? Then what is the substance of that world? And what is the intelligence that created the world? And we came down to the divine consciousness, the Satchitananda. That this world is a reflection, just like you create buildings and skyscrapers in your dream. What do you create it with? Consciousness within you. You don't need bricks and mortars to create it. And when you're in those worlds, it feels very real to you. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is a dream world. Just like that, this world feels very real to you. But you've created this world out of scoops of consciousness from within you. That is why when you ask the question, who am I and what is my real relationship with the people, the living objects and the non-living objects, it's not real. And when the dream is over, those relationships are over. That is why who you are is a supreme being made of pure consciousness, simply caught up in the dream of samsara. That is what it is said. And we will go through more texts and more teachings to complete that. It is time to close the 8th verse here. And the only thing I can say is that there is no liberation from samsara without this type of knowledge. I don't know what knowledge to call it. Should we call it Vedic knowledge? Should we call it Hindu knowledge? Should we call it Indian knowledge? Or shall we just call it soul's knowledge? And be grateful to the first yogis and yoginis who gleaned this truth. Why do I call them yogis and yoginis? Because they went inside themselves to transcend samsara. There is no door to samsara. Once there was a person who got caught up in a forest and he looked around and looked around. And he got really, really panicky because no matter where he went, he would get lost in more and more of the thick woods, difficult animals. Everywhere there was fear. And finally, he came across a tree and somebody else was sitting there. And that person didn't look fearful and that person looked peaceful. So the person said, I'm looking for freedom. I'm looking for freedom. Please help me. Help me. I'm so tired and nobody is helping me and this and that. And he had all his stories of trauma and tragedy and difficulty. And the person said, okay, you want to go out? Yes. Then close your eyes. Sit down. What? What? I can't sit down. It's not safe. I can't. Sit down. Close your eyes. The door out of this forest, samsaric forest, lies inside you. Then that person closed their eyes, and one guru and one shishya found peace. This is the eternal story. And this is what is being told to us in verse 8 by the great sage Shankaracharya. Of course, everything I shared is not necessarily what must follow this verse. But like I said before, the Vedic tradition, the Buddhist tradition, the Zen tradition, all these ancient traditions where there are wisdom keepers, then it is ultimately an oral tradition. You can only write so much. But what is built around it is the whole context and the unpacking of the verse, which we are doing here through the satsang. So when the truth is known, gyate tattve kaha sansaraha. Gyate means when you know the tattva, the truth of self. Kaha sansara, where is sansara? So when we stop trying to control the samsara and have so many unconscious likes and dislikes, and we become okay. Things are going tough, you're okay. Things are not going your way, you're okay inside. Then what happens is gradually that wild, spooky animal calms down. It doesn't mean, and I want to answer this to the beginning students who are listening to me and they say, but, you can't just be okay with everything. You have to stand up against apartheid and you have to stand up against injustice. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do, but do it as a duty to Ishvara. Do not do it from this, but I gotta save and control. Because this universe, with its polarities of good, bad, ugly, lovely, has been around forever. Because it's not a real entity. It's a dream entity that the soul enters when it needs to go through this polarity curriculum to transcend them. That means that the net amount of good and bad will remain the same. It changes its face. Whether you go to the medieval age, the ancient age, net remains the same. And hatred and ugliness also remains for those who are caught up in samsara. And the degree to which people become peaceful, accommodating, kind, they are coming out of samsara. This is a unique planet, a unique realm, a planet in a dream where this is what the soul undergoes. And we have come here to strengthen our intellect, take hold of the reins, bring in our senses, and listen to the truth, start calming down the snakes of samsara, and become at peace. The rest shall follow. Take care, Jai Ma.